Kung Lao might be the most divisive character in this game, but regardless of how you feel about him personally, Kung Lao received some pretty nice buffs in the recent update, so perhaps now he's finally worthy of being called the Great Kung Lao. Without any further ado, let's break down all of his changes step by step. So this first change is a bit specific, but definitely worth explaining. So for this string Double Yang, during the 3rd and 5th hit, the opponent has a bigger hurt box, so it lands more consistently, and the reaction on hit is also different. So put simply, what I get from that description is this string should never miss as long as the first 2 hits land. The 3rd and 5th hit should all be guaranteed due to a different hurt box and a different reaction on hit. Nice stuff. And this next change is so close to being good, so Disrespect has 5 more frames of block stun and a bit more pushback on block. Now here's the problem, check it out, we're still at -8. And thanks to the input buffer on block, that means the opponent can punish you every single time guaranteed. And at first I was very optimistic about this change. I thought, well, if you're at -8 and the opponent knows that, they're gonna want to punish you. And when they punish too soon, you just finish the string and catch them for a crushing blow. And that sounded pretty good in theory, but when I practiced it, I noticed that if you don't finish the string, there's a very obvious animation because Kung Lao puts his hat back on. If Kung Lao puts his hat back on, you have time to see that and still go for the punish. Because if you finish the string, he never actually goes to put his hat on his head, he just swings it forward right away. Now the animation is somewhat similar, but I was practicing it and you have all day to see him kind of hold his hand out. That's your first giveaway, he doesn't throw it forward right away. And the second giveaway is he puts it on his head. So you have all day to watch him finish that string and then go for the punish because once again he's -8. Oddly enough though, this is somewhat of a buff to Variation 1 since he has a special move that keeps him safe on block at -4. And if you go for that all the time, the opponent's going to start to suspect it and you can maybe condition them and just not do it once and they won't punish you. But once again it's very risky because the animation of him putting his hat on is just so obvious. And I'll be honest, I would have preferred this string was just safe at -7. I think it would have been nice to give Kung Lao players a very easy hit confirm because he has this mid which is fast but it's only 1 hit. The second hit knocks down, so you can't really hit confirm it that easily. And he has this string, but he's got to be very, very close for it, so it's not that good either. This string is a fantastic whiff punish. It would have been really cool if it was also safe on block. I think that change would have been really nice for Kung Lao players, but as it stands right now, it's still barely punishable. And this next change I found a bit peculiar, so Spin Kick got a ton of love. So for starters, it's 14 frames now on startup instead of 15. It has 3 active frames instead of just 1, 2 less recovery frames if it misses, and its cancel frame now occurs 4 frames earlier. And I was like, man, why so much love for this single move? So I was messing around with it and it can't really cancel into anything. It knocks the opponent way too far away, and even if you combo into it in the corner and special cancel it, you don't get very much damage, so I was pretty perplexed why it got so many buffs. However, then I discovered this move is actually Kung Lao's anti-air. And it's actually not too bad. It hits pretty high up, knocks the opponent really far away. You gotta do it a bit early, and I'm not a Kung Lao main, so my timing's a bit off. But the problem is, even when you cancel it, you don't really get a guaranteed follow-up of any kind. And once again, it is a bit better in the corner because if you spin the bar, you can actually combo after it. So I guess in summary, after all of these buffs, Kung Lao has a more active and faster startup anti-air. They can also cancel sooner, all that good stuff. I feel like it's mainly going to be good in the corner. It's a good anti-air no matter what, don't get me wrong. But in the corner you can actually cancel into stuff and get a combo going, which is very nice. And this next change is going to make a lot of players salty, so his grab out of the teleport is now much better on hit. So look at that, plus 35. That's pretty much a guaranteed crossover setup. If the opponent doesn't have meter, you can jump over him and catch him on the way down. It's going to be really good for stuff like that, and I actually like this change. I know his teleport is super annoying, but this throw at the end of the day does barely any damage, only 90, and you can fully duck this thing for a crushing blow punish quite easily. And the other options that he has do almost the same damage or more, so I was like, man, going for that throw is kind of just a huge risk when a lot of other options have better hitboxes and are much less risky. So I think making this move better on hit with more frame advantage was a very good decision. It just makes it a bit more viable and useful even at a higher level. Because let's be real, casual players love this move, it's their best friend, so they're going to keep using it regardless of the buffs, but I feel like at a high level this move's going to be that much better because it allows for setups, jumping over the opponent, all that good stuff, just really good Oki pressure when you're at plus 35. It's just one more reason to go for this teleport, even though it's damage isn't that high, and I like this buff. I think it's a good choice. And next up, let's talk about his armor breaking move. So it's actually his dive kick. Now, unfortunately, the amplified version doesn't work. I wish it did. I kind of think they both should break armor just in case the opponent breaks a bit later than you want. But this dive kick being an armor break is a very interesting decision. It has some obvious weaknesses, but also some unique strengths as well. So the good news is this armor break is more than fast enough to combo after an uppercut crushing blow. In fact, you can actually do a jumping kick into it, which I recommend doing for a bit more damage. And of course, if this move breaks armor, whether it be a breakaway or a fatal blow, you get his crushing blow for a lot of damage, especially after the uppercut crushing blow. So just check this out. Look at this damage. It's pretty ridiculous. Oh, that's some of the easiest 50% I've ever seen. Now, of course, your opponent would be a fool to break away after an uppercut crushing blow, but if they do, if they panic, you get a very easy 50%. And one more great strength about his armor breaking move being his dive kick is his ability to just avoid attacks and then whiff punish with this move. I think Kung Lao, more than any other character, is going to be really good at baiting the desperate fatal blow. You know the kind of players I'm talking about. You knock them down, you jump straight up, they do a fatal blow, and then boom, you catch them with this. You break their armor. Kung Lao is going to be better at that than pretty much any other character because not only does his armor break have great range, but he's also in the air when he does it, which means he'll avoid a vast majority of the fatal blows in the game. However, because Kung Lao has to jump to do the dive kick, it's pretty easy for the opponent to break away in a lot of situations before you can even use the armor breaking move. So outside of the uppercut crushing blow and a couple other specific scenarios, it's going to be tough to actually combo into this thing when the opponent goes for a breakaway. And this next change I actually don't like at all, but Kung Lao's Wake Up 3 now does regular damage. It does 90 instead of 135 despite being 2 hits. I find this to be a bit unfair. I get that his Wake Up 3 is pretty godlike because it's so active. It's got a pretty big upwards hitbox too, but come on, it's just one more thing that made Kung Lao unique, and I think taking it away is kinda mean because certain characters have unique like short hops like Sindel, and hers still does more damage than regular short hops because it hits twice. So to me, the fact that Kung Lao's Up 3 has 2 hits but still does lower damage doesn't seem very fair to me. Other characters have unique stuff that does more damage, but not poor Kung Lao. But at the same time, despite me being salty, this does make Kung Lao a bit more consistent with other characters. His Up 3 now does about average damage, and I suppose in some people's mind that's a good thing, so there you go. And this next change has to do with Variation 3, so in Spiritual Guidance, his Soul Burst projectile now all hits mid. I like this change a lot. I think mid hitting projectiles are obviously superior for a lot of different reasons, so I'm definitely a big fan of these projectiles hitting mid. I think it'll make Variation 3 just that much more viable. It's already a pretty decent variation. It's pretty much a jack of all trades. Its damage is just a bit on the low side, and you also lose access to his most godlike spin. Instead, you have the Vortex, which is okay, but certainly not as good. However, there is also a bit of a nerf here as well, so apparently there was a glitch before that allowed you to cancel Soul Burst into a different special move, and that's no longer possible. Which is fair because it was a bug, and I'm honestly not sure how many players actually made use of that at a competitive level, but now it's no longer possible. And I think this next change only applies to a custom ability, so the second projectile of Possessed Hat will no longer sometimes come out if Kung Lao is interrupted. So in other words, if you throw the one hat and then get hit, the second hit will not come out. However, one nice buff to balance things out is that Possessed Hat will no longer sometimes not combo when hitting from certain ranges. So in other words, that move is just more specific. If it lands, it's going to combo when it should. And now is also a good time to mention that all of Kung Lao's hat toss projectiles are no longer immune to reflect moves, which I suppose is fair, but I think it was kind of okay for them to beat reflects only because when he tosses his hat, for a temporary amount of time, he actually can't do any moves involving the hat. So for example, his 4-2-1 string. You actually can't do that after tossing the hat. It's physically impossible. So to me, that's already a really weird nerf that no other projectile has. The fact that he can temporarily not use certain moves after throwing this projectile, I think that's more than enough reason for it to beat reflects. However, NetherRealm doesn't agree, and I think they might be right here. The point is, this hat will now be affected by reflects just like any other projectile, or at least most other projectiles. And then this final change is actually a very good one in my opinion. So for Kung Lao's Fatal Blow, only the final hit actually has damage scaling, which basically means this move will now do more damage when used to end combos, especially long combos, because now both hits don't scale. Instead, only the final hit does. So for example, if I do a basic combo like this, we're gonna get a bit more damage now. And look at that, we're almost getting 50 damage, and that is not the optimal combo, it's just the more easy one. Variation 1 really hurts. If y'all don't play Variation 1 as Kung Lao, I recommend trying it out. It's a lot of fun. So in summary, Kung Lao is mostly the same, but certain strings like this one are a bit harder for the opponent to punish now, which is very nice. He also has a new armor breaking move that I think is pretty unique and also works in a lot of situations. And of course, Kung Lao is much more deadly now when he's low on health, because that fatal blow hurts that much more at the end of a long combo. I certainly don't agree with all of these changes, but it was nice to see Kung Lao buffed a little bit, because a lot of people do agree he's a bit lacking, but he's also a pretty okay character. I don't think anyone thought he was bad anymore. So giving him a few buffs without making him too strong was a pretty good idea, because he's already very solid. However, please let me know your thoughts on these changes in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.